The Forrester fashion house was at its peak. The press was swarming. The runway was set. A highly anticipated fashion show was about to take place that would cement Forrester Creations' dominance and celebrate its legacy with a new face leading the charge. Everything was flawless. The lights, the venue, the anticipation. What no one knew was that chaos had already slipped in backstage. Luna was already there, in disguise, wearing a meticulously crafted mask and dressed as one of the new mystery models meant to close out the show with drama and flair. No one recognized her. Not even Steffi, who was overseeing the final fittings. No one suspected a thing. The world thought Luna was gone buried under legal troubles and scandal after surviving an attempt on her life and disappearing without a trace. Lee, her own mother, had nearly killed her. Katie had called the police. Luna had escaped, and now she was hiding in plain sight, blending into the one place no one would think to look, Forrester's most public event. But Luna hadn't come just to hide. She had come to buy time. She needed a way out, and she needed it fast. The police were closing in. Katie had already tipped them off. But if she could just survive this night, just make it to the end of the show without being discovered, she could slip out and vanish for good. She'd already planned her exit. But the one thing she didn't plan for was the mask falling off. It happened suddenly. A misstep on the runway. A flick of a model's flowing gown. The tie of her mask caught and yanked back. The mask fell to the floor with a soft thud, but the silence that followed was thunderous. There she was. Luna. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed. Whispers turned to shouts. For a second, time stopped. Then chaos broke out. Security rushed forward. Photographers surged toward the stage. Models scrambled off the runway. And Steffi watching from the wings locked eyes with the girl they had all believed was gone. Luna didn't wait. Instinct kicked in. She grabbed Steffi, wrapped an arm around her neck, and pulled her backward into the shadows, holding a small sharp object just enough to convince security she meant business. Screams erupted. Flashbulbs exploded. The entire show was thrown into hysteria. "Don't follow me," Luna hissed to the security guards now frozen at the curtain. "I swear I'll hurt her if you do." Steffi trembled in her grasp, her voice cracking as she cried, "Please don't do this, Luna. Please, you don't have to." But Luna wasn't listening. Her mind was unraveling. Betrayed by her mother. Hunted by the police. Exposed in the middle of the most public event imaginable. She had nothing left to lose, and Steffi was her only bargaining chip. She dragged her hostage through the back hallways of the venue, dodging production assistants and shock designers. Her only focus now was getting out. She wasn't thinking of consequences anymore. She just wanted to disappear. Meanwhile, word spread like wildfire. Ridge was alerted. Brooke tried to push her way backstage. Finn arrived seconds later, breathless and wide-eyed, demanding answers. But no one had answers. Only fear. The last anyone had seen, Luna had pulled Steffi into the east exit corridor, and then vanished again. Finn was losing control. He kept asking who let Luna in, who didn't check the model list, who was responsible. No one could answer. At the same time, the police arrived. Katie briefed them quickly. She told them what happened before, how she had caught Lee attacking Luna, how Luna escaped her own trauma and disappeared. But this wasn't what she expected. She didn't believe Luna would go this far. Back in the dim corridor, Luna tried to find a way out, dragging Steffi with her. "I didn't want this," she muttered. "I was just trying to escape. I wasn't supposed to be seen." Steffi tried to reason with her. "You're scared. I get it. But hurting me won't fix anything. They'll never let you go now. They'll chase you forever." Luna's grip tightened. "Then I'll make sure they don't have a reason to follow me. I didn't start this. Your family did. Katie, Brooke, they made me into a story. A threat. I was just trying to survive." Steffi sobbed. "Please, I have kids. I have a family. That was the moment Luna hesitated. A pause. Just enough for Steffi to pull free slightly. A scuffle. Luna stumbled, but she still had the sharp object. And she waved it again. Not to stab, but to threaten. Don't move, but security had already cornered the corridor from the far end. Voices echoed. Drop the weapon. Let her go. Luna froze. Steffi cried, frozen in terror. Then the worst happened. In the confusion, Luna made one final, frantic push to escape. She shoved Steffi aside, bolted through a side exit and disappeared into the night before anyone could stop her. The aftermath was devastation. Steffi was taken to safety, emotionally shattered. Finn found her minutes later. He pulled her into his arms, held her tightly as she cried. She clung to him like her life depended on it. He whispered, "You're safe now, I've got you, but Steffi kept sobbing. Over and over again. Her fear wasn't just about the moment. It was about how close she'd come to losing everything. The Forrester fashion show was overturned apart by a moment no one saw coming. The press had already begun reporting the scandal. Runway horror. Forrester model revealed as fugitive. Steffi Forrester taken hostage. Brooke stood in silence backstage. Katie beside her. The weight of everything that had unfolded hung in the air. Lee was still in custody. The charges that attempted murder, forgery, obstruction. But Luna was now more than just a victim of Lee's crimes. She was now a fugitive, wanted for kidnapping, assault, and public endangerment. Thomas, standing near the edge of the chaos, said nothing. Just watched. And for once, even he couldn't strategize a way to spin what had just happened. The family was shaken to its core. Security was tightened. Press statements were issued. Steffi was taken home, where Finn never left her side. He sat beside her bed, held her hand through the night, cried quietly when she finally fell asleep, her tear-streaked face twitching with trauma. The show was supposed to be a celebration, a new chapter, but it had become a warning. Luna was still out there, and now no one knew what she might do next. Eric Forrester had always stood at the center of the fashion empire he built, a patriarch with vision, taste, and conviction. He carried the Forrester name with pride, and his word was law in the halls of Forrester Creations. But in one calculated move, he shattered the heart of someone who had stood beside him not just as a confidant, but as a partner, a believer. A woman who defended the Forrester name through every storm. That woman was Dr. Taylor Hayes. Taylor had seen it coming. The shifting tone, the closed-door meetings, the subtle sidelining of her input in recent creative decisions. But the final blow was delivered during a meeting she believed would secure her next design collaboration under the Forrester banner. Instead, Eric, cold and composed, informed her that the brand was moving in a different direction. Her ideas, while emotionally rich, no longer aligned with the current vision. It was professional. It was clean. It was brutal. Taylor didn't fight. She stood quietly, nodded, and left. But inside, the break was complete. She wasn't just losing a collaboration, she was being cut off from the family she had intertwined herself with for decades. From Ridge, from the children, from a legacy she once helped protect. She walked away without a single tear. Because pain this deep doesn't show up in cries. It shows up in resolve. Within a week, she was gone from the Forrester offices. Her name removed from upcoming launch press, her design stripped from boards. But while Eric and Ridge believed she would disappear quietly into private life, Taylor had other plans. Far from licking her wounds, Taylor began building. She reconnected with old colleagues from her international humanitarian efforts, creatives and strategists who had once admired her resilience and clarity of purpose. One of those calls led her to a name that had been circling in the industry, but not yet given full attention in L.A. Nozawa. Nozawa wasn't just a fashion house. It was a movement in East meets West fusion brand led by Rei Nozawa, a fiercely talented but strategically reserved designer based out of Tokyo and New York. Nozawa had been gaining traction in Europe and parts of Asia but hadn't yet cracked the American fashion scene. Taylor saw the opportunity. She made her pitch not as a designer, but as a strategist, a visionary, a force who understood both the psychology of audiences and the undercurrents of fashion warfare in Los Angeles. Nozawa listened, then accepted. And with that, Taylor Hayes re-entered the fashion world not as a cast-off of the Forresters, but as the quiet architect of their new greatest rival. Word traveled fast. At first, Forrester Creations dismissed the noise. Nozawa had no market share in LA, no established infrastructure, no loyal base. But then came the buzz. The first private show. The campaign images featuring bold, minimalist fusion cuts paired with emotionally raw narratives. Each piece told a story. And behind each campaign, Taylor's fingerprint or storytelling, her psychological framing, her deep understanding of the emotional tension that drives consumer desire. The fashion world noticed, and so did the Spencer family. Bill Spencer had long held a grudge against the Forresters. Power games, romantic entanglements, boardroom betrayals that all fueled his obsession with taking them down. When his media team flagged Nozawa as a rising disruptor backed by Taylor Hayes, Bill's interest turned to strategy. He saw what others hadn't, that Nozawa wasn't playing by the old rules. And with Taylor steering its image, the threat wasn't just aesthetic, it was narrative, emotional, subversive, dangerous. Wyatt and Liam were hesitant at first, supporting a rival to the Forresters. Risky. But the numbers didn't lie. Nozawa was trending. Their pre-orders were climbing. And most importantly, they were pulling influencers and talent away from Forrester's once dominant orbit. The Spencers arranged a private sit-down with Taylor and Ray Nozawa. What was said in that room remained confidential, but when it was over, Spencer Publications had officially partnered with Nozawa for full-scale U.S. media rollout and strategic funding. Forrester Creations began to feel the pressure almost immediately. Celebrity stylists who once exclusively worked with the Forresters started taking calls from Nozawa. Retail buyers began splitting their budgets. And at the heart of it all, Taylor's Exiled, now reimagined as a silent disruptor, recorded every message, every launch, every perfectly timed PR jab. But she wasn't loud. She didn't gloat. Her strength was in the quiet tower of patience and precision. Brooke caught wind of Taylor's return and didn't take it lightly. The rivalry between them had always been personal. Now it was professional. Brooke attempted to downplay the threat in front of Ridge and Steffi, but privately, she started tightening her grip on press appearances and legacy campaigns. She couldn't afford to lose ground. Not to Taylor. Not now. The Forrester design team scrambled. Eric pushed for a new couture line that would remind the industry of their dominance. Ridge spearheaded a back-to-origins collection with classic silhouettes. But Steffi and Hope were divided on the creative direction. The tension began fracturing the internal leadership. Then came Fashion Week. For the first time in its history, Fashion Week LA featured Nozawa as a main event. Their show was set just 24 hours before Forrester's and was heavily rumored to include last-minute surprise appearances from major celebrity names once tied exclusively to Forrester Creations. As the venue filled, media buzzed with speculation. Would Nozawa deliver? Could Taylor actually stage a full-scale takedown of the very family she once considered home? The answer came in a single show. Minimalist set, haunting music, ethereal lighting, and then the design sharp, elegant, unapologetically cross-cultural. Each piece walked the line between tradition and rebellion. The crowd was spellbound. And when the final model walked out draped in a sleek black and silver piece called Exile's Crown, Taylor's voice narrated through the sound system. Not as a designer, as the strategist who rebuilt her name from the ground up. Her words were subtle but unmistakable. This is not revenge. It is recognition. The press exploded. Headlines dominated every platform. Taylor Hayes rises. Nozawa redefines the game. Forrester Creations. Is the reign ending? The next day, Forrester's show opened to intense scrutiny. Cameras picked apart every design. Critics compared every element to Nozawa's showcase. And though the collection was strong, technically perfected, felt defensive, forced, reactionary. Eric watched from the front row, his expression unreadable. Ridge kept glancing at the press gallery. Steffi smiled for the cameras but clenched her jaw backstage. Hope, always the emotional barometer, quietly voiced what everyone feared. They beat us. Back at Nozawa's temporary LA headquarters, Taylor watched the Forrester broadcast with calm detachment. She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply turned to Ray and said, "Now we plan for New York." Because this wasn't a one-off. This was the beginning of a new era. Taylor Hayes was no longer a supporting character in someone else's legacy. She was now the architect of her own. And the fashion battlefield had just shifted permanently.